What's up, y'all? So coming back with another hit with me. This session, I'm gonna use my verbiage here. This session is gonna be focused on an early shift. I've also heard some coaches refer as like heavy to the front side, more weight on their front side, lunging forward, something along those lines with their verbiage. I'm gonna use an early shift because that's what I feel and that's kind of how I describe it myself, but feel free to word it anything that resonates with you. So this session, we're gonna start front toss, just regular balls, and we're actually gonna do a single leg drill that's really helped a lot of our hitters that like to shift, get heavy on the front side, lunge forward, push, however you wanna word it. It's helped them quite a bit understand when they're pushing and how they're trying to create force. And so kind of wanna give you a visual. And so a lot of these hitters, we'll have them in the single leg position or a staggered position here. And we'll mix in some pump fakes, which we're not gonna do the pump fakes here, but this is something that we do with some of our hitters, where they'll be in this position and we want to kick across as we swing. I'm sure you've seen this drill. We call them back leg swings. I'm sure you've seen this drill. And so the thing that we see with a lot of our hitters is instead of kicking across, their first move will be push this way. And so they're creating a lot of, we call it horizontal force. As you see this force plate back here, get a lot of data with that. And so we'll see them, instead of kicking across, more of a reciprocal move, cross body, using this fascial line to rotate with their middle, they will push forward like this. And so I'm gonna show you a bad one here, because this is what we see a lot of hitters that first start doing this drill do. So they'll kick back here, and their first move is like and they'll fall forward. And not that they can't find barrel at times, but again, when we get in game, we get both feet, they go like this, really heavy on the front side. And so I'm gonna go ahead, do this drill now, take a handful of swings here, and try to do it the right way. So we'll see how it goes. Okay, so what I'm really trying to do with this drill is when I get this back leg back behind me and my hands back, I really want to feel this stretch across my body. So everyone talks about like hip shoulder separation or creating stretch, create tension, something like that, right? And so I really want to create that stretch across the front of my body, because if I don't get this stretch, I don't get this slack pulled out across my body, I won't want to use that as a power source, right? And so I'm really trying to get stretch here at the front part of my body so I can use that as my power source. And then the cue that I tell myself is I want to close that gap. And so I think about a rubber band, I stretch it away, but now I'm releasing both sides and I want it to slap together. And so I think about my back shoulder and my front hip closing that gap, almost like the little Frankenstein warm up that you see a lot of players do pregame. And so that's kind of the cue I give myself and some of the hitters that really help. So I'm gonna take a few more swings here from this position. Oh, a little bit harder. Oh, almost fumbled the bag there, Hub. Woo! Yeah. And so that makes a good point. Sometimes too, hitters will be scared to do this drill because they're scared that they might hit their foot. And so something that we see is when hitters can't get into a hinge with their back hip, what I mean by hinge is like butt behind heels, chest over home feel, like this. They'll try to get to that lower pitch, which that wasn't too low, but is a little bit lower than some of the others, by dropping their hands. And when they kick and drop their hands, that's when you start to see problems. But if I get into a hinge, and I'm kicking across like this, now the bat's getting across before I kick across too. And so that's another thing too, is to cue up with hitters, is make sure when we're doing this drill, our hips back into a hinge before I kick across, so I don't run into that problem. Cool, cool. All right, so on to the next. So now what we're gonna do, we're gonna start pretty heavy with the implements. I'm gonna go back foot farm board. I'm gonna put this hurdle in front of my front knee from launch. And so the reasoning behind this is sometimes too, hitters like to push out of their backside, which is why they get to that lunge, which is why they get so heavy or shift forward early. So I'm getting this farm board back here to give me feedback. So if I push leading to that heavy front side, I'm gonna feel it. And then also too, this hurdle is gonna give me feedback. You can use a bucket, you can use a yoga block, something along those lines. Just something here to give feedback. So if I shift or I lunge forward, I'm gonna knock this hurdle over. And so my goal here is to one, not knock this hurdle over, and also to not push or spin with the board, and just try to stay anchored in the ground. And just from launch here. Push. And so that's where I want both implements here too. The farm board away after several swings. I want both implements because I can push back with my back foot towards the catcher, but then also push back with my front foot so the hurdle won't give me a ton of feedback. And so in this particular drill, I'm actually going to use the hurdle. As feedback. So when I stretch, I don't want to stretch everything back at once and then spin out. I want to actually try to keep my hurdle or my knee near the hurdle so I can create that tension across my lower half and across my body as more of that's my feedback in this particular variation of this drill. So more focused on what the farm board's doing when it comes to the whole pushing and early shift. So I'm actually going to, I feel myself pushing a little bit. I'm actually going to give myself a little implement here. Sometimes we use PVC pipes. In this particular example, I'm going to put a wedge back here. So if I push back towards the catcher, it's going to give me feedback. I'm going to touch it. So sometimes we'll tell hitters stay in their lane. So I'm really trying to stay in my lane here. I don't want to push back towards the catcher here. I want this board to pull back behind me, but I'm not really thinking about it pulling back behind me. There we go, not as bad. All right, so now we're gonna go with no board and the hurdle in front of the front foot. And so it's gonna be a little bit easier for me to wanna push forward into the hurdle now because I don't have board, right? And so we're gonna use the hurdle as feedback, one, for me to stretch away from, keep my knee there, but also two, if I push, you're gonna see myself shift into it and knock the hurdle over. And so that's kind of the progression here that we're gonna go with, is no board with a hurdle there. Take some swings that way. From launch. Boy, not of you at the, no, not with you on the left side. Come on now. You got a little midget in your glove, boy. You got a midget in your glove. Ah. Probably got that one too, huh? And I'm trying to stay off the IR here. Ah, this boy's got jokes today, huh? That boy's got the same joke. It's funny every time. You got that one too? Yeah, on the left side. On the left side. Just messing with y'all. Me and Hub like boys. We brothers. He got that one too. All right, gotta move on from the hurdle there and give a little implement here. So we're gonna use a wedge. That's what we're gonna start with. It's pretty extreme, got some leverage. And so again, it's gonna be something to watch out for the wedge too, is that we're not pushing back off the wedge, but just using it as leverage. So if I feel myself forward, it should help me stop that shift forward because of the leverage here. And so again, pretty steep wedge. We're gonna progress to a little bit lower of an angle here in a little bit, but gonna take a few swings from here, really feel myself getting that back hip and be able to rotate without shifting into that front side heavily. I just kicked back. That's good coaching there, Hub. No, Slice McGee. Again, just gonna use the wedge as feedback, felt myself push back a little bit. Back and forth. Stay anchored. Loading that back hip, more of an open 45 feel. Okay, so now we're gonna go away from the wedge. Like I said, I'm gonna progress. Still a little leverage here. It's a little gel pad here called the Force Pedal. You can get them at theforcepedal.com. A little shout out. I'm gonna go ahead and take my shoe off here so I don't mess this bad boy up. So again, same thing, just gonna use it as leverage. I'm gonna be on the front side of it. I'm gonna feel myself push. I'm gonna feel my ankle kind of turn over the front of it. And so give me some feedback. And we all like implements with a little bit of feedback. So here we go. Feel myself spinning like crazy. Open 45, feel. Stay behind. Hook. I'm gonna try to keep that same feel from the hurdle from earlier, trying to keep my front knee out, not letting it turn back in when I load my hips away here. And again, it's a good note. Use the drills from earlier to create a feel. Don't just, walk through the drills without a purpose. So I'm gonna try to keep that same feel here. One more with this bad boy. Okay, now we're gonna go without this. Oops. Go ahead and throw the shoe back on, for old time's sake. Just gonna go from launch here, try to keep those same feels of being behind my front side, loading my back hip, not drifting or pushing forward. Just gonna go from launch here. Okay, a few more of these. Okay, so a big part of kind of the adjustment that Hub, I know he's not on the mic, what he was talking about was when I don't get my back hip loaded properly. What I mean by properly is that screw into the ground, that torque, that swivel, however you want to word it. When I don't do that, it makes me want to create force in a different way. And then I tend to push forward that way. Or today, because I know I'm focused on it, I'm not necessarily pushing, but I'm pushing back from my front side. And that's why you see myself stepping over with my back foot on some of those a little bit earlier. Those last couple were a little bit better. And so a big part of not drifting forward is even before that and before firing is how you get loaded, how you get stretched. So again, a couple more. I'm gonna keep that same focus of how I get loaded because that's a big part of me not wanting to lunge forward and push and shift. Oh, came up out of posture. That's for a different hit with me. Cool, cool, one more. You know what I do feel? I actually feel my core a little lit today, not my back. What do you know? It's the little things. Cool, so we're gonna end on the launch swings here, or from constraint. And the reasoning is it's just a build up, and then next, naturally, you guys would go to BP. Maybe this is something you do before you even get to your BP session, if you're in high school, college, whatever. Maybe you do this on an off day or whatever, 30 minutes, something like that. Take some time, really work on some drills on your own. You can do it off the tee, side toss machine, all that type of stuff. And then another thing I want y'all to notice is how we went from furthest from game swing and worked our way all the way up to closest to game swing. And so we started off single leg, then we went with heavy implements, started taking implements away, added a little bit less of an extreme implement, started going down with the implement, less of a degree, less of the leverage of the wedge, and then we went to the little pad, then we went to the game swing. And so sometimes it can be hard going from one extreme, ton of implements and then just taking all the implements away to really create that feel. And so that progression is really important for a lot of hitters to keep that feel. And so again, like I say every time, if y'all have any topics you want us to cover, want us to throw some drills y'all's way, something y'all want to work on, struggle with, go ahead and shoot that our way. But until next time.